Today, you're going to learn exactly how to practice a speech beforehand so that on the day, you'll be confident, concise, and compelling. I'm going to show you a step-by-step practice plan, a blueprint for success. This video is sponsored by Ovation, the virtual reality and AI speaking trainer. I'll put links to their website in the description below. I call this practice method the 3x3+1 method. If you practice this way for even one speech, it will totally transform how you approach public speaking forever. You should use this anytime you're doing what we call in the field of communication an extemporaneous speech, the most common type of speech and presentation, even in professional settings. This is how I personally practice, and that means you'll be researching and practicing a lot beforehand. But ultimately, you'll be speaking from limited notes and talking in a conversational style during the presentation. In other words, we're not talking about reading your speech word for word, memorizing it word for word, or just winging it. Before you start practicing, I'm going to assume that you already have done most of your research and you've created a detailed outline of your speech that includes your introduction, body, and conclusion. Each practice day starts with an updated outline that you'll use. Let's walk through the 3x3+1 method. If you want a copy of what we're showing on the screen, you can download my free mini ebook guide called 7 Instant Tips for Confident and Composed Public Speaking. Near the back of that free download are the tips that I'm sharing in this video and a practice checklist. That's on the page with all my free resources on my website. I'm going to say this speech is from 8 to 10 minutes long as a reference, but you'll have to adapt that to whatever speech you're doing. An overview of the 3x3+1 practice method is this. You'll start practicing 3 times per day, 3 days before your speech. And then you'll practice one last time the morning of your presentation. These 3 practice days progress in phases, and your step-by-step daily goals will be different. Those daily goals will keep you motivated. That's a total of 10 practice sessions spread over 3 days. For most presentations, practicing 10 times like this will make you more prepared and effective than 99% of other public speakers. Don't go up there and just wing it and expect to succeed. As Muhammad Ali once said, the fight is won or lost far away from witnesses, behind the lines, in the gym, out there on the road, long before I dance under those lights. The same is true for public speaking. 95% of how your speech comes out on the day is determined by how you practice beforehand. First, 3 days before your presentation, we'll call this day 1, your mumble reading day. You will essentially sit by yourself quietly and talk through your full outline 3 times. We call this a mumble read, but I use the term read very loosely. The goal of mumbling through your outline is to begin internalizing the content. You'll revise your speech a bit between each repetition. As you mumble through it, your goals should be these. Make sure all of the big pieces are in the right place. Make sure the points and the individual elements within each point flow logically and naturally from one piece to the next. Attempt to do less actual reading of your notes with each rep. Try to vary your specific wording choice a bit each time to make sure it always sounds fresh and not robotic. Revise your speech a bit between each rep and perhaps do some additional research to make sure all of the key ideas are illustrated with stories, quotations, statistics. You might pause to make small revisions during each rep though. Set a timer on your last rep of day 1 to make sure your 8 to 10 minute speech doesn't take 30 minutes to mumble through. Now keep in mind that speeches for my clients are usually on the long side at this point. You'll make it more concise as you go. Now here's what not to worry about on day 1. Don't worry about getting through the entire presentation from start to finish without stopping. Right now you're just learning the content and revising it. Also, make no attempt to say things exactly the same way each time you mumble through it. Use your outline as a guide, not a word-for-word script. Keep your mumbling conversational and natural. Once you've gotten 3 reps plus revisions, that's it. Put it away. You'll probably notice that your brain will keep working on your speech as you sleep. As mentioned, this video is sponsored by Ovation, a virtual reality AI speaking trainer. Backed by research, Ovation is one of the best ways to overcome public speaking anxiety and build your confidence, which is why many schools already love it. It's a motivating way to get practice reps compared to alternatives like looking in a mirror or trying to convince your roommates to listen to your speech again and again. Ovation has a gamified effect that makes you want to keep practicing because it has built-in public speaking coaching in the form of AI-generated, customized feedback. You can practice prepared presentations or learn to think on your feet by practicing impromptu speeches or by taking questions from an AI audience. You can practice mock interviews, difficult conversations, and nearly unlimited role-play scenarios. I'll put links to Ovation's website in the description below the video. I know the CEO personally, and if you're from a school or organization, he'll be happy to demo Ovation for you and walk you through it. There's a VR headset version, but also a laptop version that's fantastic. Let's talk about day 2, the table read. 2 days from the presentation, we again start with your outline from the day before. Set a goal to cut it in half. If it was 4 pages yesterday for an 8 to 10 minute presentation, cut that down to 2 pages. Save these as separate documents, of course, in case you need to refer to the longer outline later. Reduce the notes by cutting parts of full sentences that you can live without. Aim for bullet points, fragments on day 2. We're striving to make an outline shorter here and cleaner so you're not tempted to read or memorize anything. We want to sound conversational because that's what audiences prefer. On day 2, again, you'll do 3 reps through the speech. You're still internalizing the content here, but you're also practicing your speech. I'm calling day 2 a table read because this step is a lot like how actors practice a few days before they record most TV shows, especially comedies like Saturday Night Live or sitcoms. The whole cast reads through an entire script. Now, you're not reading yours word for word, but the acting metaphor is still helpful because you'll be playing it up a bit and doing what feels like acting as you practice. Your key goals for day 2 are to stand up, speak at a higher conversational volume, as if you were standing and speaking to a group around a big table. Imagine you're in front of your audience and work on your delivery by adding emphasis to key ideas and gesturing naturally. Strive to keep your wording natural and focus on communicating your content faithfully rather than memorizing and focusing on exact wording for each sentence. For each of your 3 reps, look at your notes less and less. Push yourself to visualize what comes next instead of looking at your notes. Glancing to see what comes next is fine, but just glance, get your eyes back up and finish those thoughts without looking at your notes as best as you can. Don't try to be perfect, that's a common mistake. In fact, I often deliberately change my wording slightly each time to stay flexible. I never stop mid-sentence and restart that sentence or that point on day 2. Even if I start a sentence in an awkward way or make a mistake, I fight my way through it and find a way to get back on track without restarting the point. That will train you to be more adaptable on the day of your speech because each practice rep trains you to find a slightly different path to move forward. You should also time yourself. Keep a log of exact time for each repetition. If a speech is supposed to be, for example, 8 to 10 minutes, aim for the 9-minute mark each time. Audiences hate it when speakers go over time. So if you want to make a quick revision during a rep, pause your timer briefly and then restart it and pick up exactly where you left off. But do your best to get through your entire speech without stopping at least one time on day 2. Make any substantial revisions between each of your 3 reps on day 2. Overnight, your brain will somehow keep working on your speech. On day 3, you'll do your dress rehearsals. This is the day before your actual speech, and you'll start by revising your outline as I usually recommend. You'll rewrite your notes by cutting them in half again. If you're doing this on full-size paper, you'd cut your 2-page outline from the day before down to about 1 page. And since this is a dress rehearsal, you should move your notes to actual note cards or whatever form your speaking notes will take. A good rule of thumb is to use just 1 or 2 note cards for each of the main points you're using, depending upon how long your speech is, plus 1 card for the intro, 1 for the conclusion. For an 8 to 10 minute speech, you might have just 5 to 8 cards. These are called speaking notes, and some people speak from a tablet or a simple paper notepad. I don't recommend, however, speaking from your phone. It comes across as unprepared and last minute. I personally use note cards for many speeches. You can use whatever is most comfortable for you. One word of caution, however, the PowerPoint slides in back of you are not your speaking notes. This is a beginner's mistake. Those are visual aids and they're for your audience only. They're not there to help you remember what you were going to say. Don't make that classic mistake of turning your back on your audience to look at your slides. That's a topic for a whole nother video entirely. But on day 3, you now have your cleaned up notes chopped in half from the day before, and they're very close to what you'll speak from on the actual day. Aim for keywords only by this point. You might draw a simple diagram or have a code to remind you of what comes next. That's it. With these speaking notes, you're ready to do dress rehearsals. Here are your goals. Wear the actual clothing that you'll wear on the day. This will help you get comfortable, motivate you, and make your practice reps feel realistic. Project your voice at full presentation volume so it fills the room you're in. Stand with good posture and gesture the way you want to during the speech. Practice making eye contact with your imaginary audience. A client of mine does this by taping pictures of faces to the wall when she practices, and she looks at them while she speaks. Practice with your visual aids to get comfortable handling those as you speak. Find a way to say things more clearly and concisely with each rep. Simplify and use plain language whenever possible. Work on any specific public speaking delivery goals you have based upon past feedback or your experience. If you want to reduce your filler words, for example, practice adding silent pauses instead. If you typically don't gesture enough, practice gesturing at least once per sentence. Now, you can't practice 10 improvements during each rep. That doesn't work. Just focus on one specific delivery improvement each time through the speech on this day. Look at your notes less and less each time. By the 7th, 8th, and 9th time through your speech, you should only really need to look at your notes about once every 30 seconds or so at most. If you find that you're still looking at your notes more than that, the problem still might be too many notes. If so, chop them in half again so you're not tempted to read them, or you might be looking at them out of habit. Either way, force yourself to keep your eyes up and off of your notes 99% of the time. Just glance down, see what comes next, and instantly bounce your eyes right back up to make practice eye contact. Time each repetition to make sure you're landing within the time expectations. You're still keeping a time log. Usually by rep 7, 8, and 9, most of my clients and students say they're landing comfortably within the desired time limit. That's one of the key signs that you're ready. Now, what, if anything, should you memorize word for word? In my experience speaking and working with clients, there are usually just several key sentences you want to make sure you have absolutely memorized. But you might be saying, wait, Alex, I thought you said not to memorize. And that is correct. As a rule of thumb, you don't want to memorize, but here are some exceptions to that rule. I recommend memorizing the first and last sentences of your speech. I also recommend memorizing your thesis statement. Some people call this the bottom line that you'd say in your introduction. And then your preview statement, which is usually the last sentence in your introduction that gives a roadmap of the points to come in the body of your presentation. That's it. That's just 4 short and simple sentences to memorize. Everything else you say should be very conversational, and you will practice this differently each time to keep it fresh. Now, +1 is your last rep, and you do this the morning of the presentation. On the day, that is, I recommend going through all or at least parts of the presentation one more time. You don't need to stand. I sometimes go back to mumbling through the key parts the morning of. My approach is to talk through my introduction and conclusion a couple of times and talk through how I start each of the main body points. And there are usually 1 or 2 other tricky parts of the speech that I want to make sure I go through one last time. This all adds up to about 1 extra rep to keep things fresh in your mind and give you that extra boost of confidence. I also recommend writing your note cards one last time that morning. Put the absolute minimum on those cards so there's nothing tempting to make you want to look down at that. By this point in the 3x3+1, you should view your note cards just as a safety net. My clients say they don't even need their notes at this point some of the time, but I still recommend having some notes just in case something unexpected throws you off. The simple act of rewriting and cleaning those notes up the morning of will also help build your confidence and prove to yourself that you are ready to go. To paraphrase Muhammad Ali's quotation again, but for public speaking, if you want to be a great public speaker, your success is decided far away from witnesses. You get great at this behind the scenes, getting in your reps long before you dance under those lights. Here's a summary of the 3x3+1 method of practicing a speech, which will automatically put you in the top 1% of presenters. This is a can't-miss approach that will change your public speaking life forever. You can get the notes for this method in that free PDF download I mentioned on my website. Also, take a look at Ovation's website, the virtual reality and AI speaking trainer. If you're looking to level up your public speaking skills and confidence, it's a fantastic trainer. Links to that are in the expandable description below the video, and I'll pin those as well in the first comment. Thanks for watching. Until next time, thanks, God bless, and I will see you soon.